kindergartners. How are you doing? Well, in Writer's Workshop today, we're going to continue what we started yesterday with Mrs. Pollock. Yesterday, you started writing the events of the story. Today, we're going to move on to the ending of a story, which is also called the solution of your story. Now, do you remember my story about Mr. Yates? Before the Eid holiday, I told you about a story when I went to the desert with Mr. Yates. And we were walking along on our camels, but then suddenly Mr. Yates's camel sank down into some quicksand. And he started sinking, and he was slipping into the quicksand, and his camel was falling down, and oh no, we have a problem for the story. Well, what is going to happen next? Well, today we need a solution to our problem. Well, good thing I had a big backpack on the back of my camel. So I reached into my backpack to see what was inside. And I looked inside and I dug everything out and to see what I can use to help get Mr. Yates out of the quicksand. And good thing I found a rope. So I took the rope and I threw it out to Mr. Yates. He tried to grab it, but he missed the first time. So I had to throw it out again. Second time, he grabbed the rope. He tied the rope around the camel's body, and then I tied the other end of the rope to my camel, and together with the help of my camel, we started walking backwards very, very slowly, and we pulled, and finally, we got Mr. Yates and his camel out of the quicksand. Phew, that was a little bit of a scary day for us, but at the end, we were able to go back to our home in Apcake. And thank goodness I had that backpack with our rope. And we solved the problem, didn't we, boys and girls? So every story needs to have a solution. So we're going to go back and do a little bit of reviewing today to help you think of a solution for your story. Okay, so boys and girls, let's review some of the problems that we had talked about. One of the problems that we had talked about was having a quest. A quest is a character in the story, he's trying to do something. Okay, so for example, here you can see this little boy, he's a knight, and his quest was that he was going to try to train this dragon. So we need to have a solution. Was he able to do it by the end of the story? What kind of things did he do to try to train his dragon? Did he train his dragon to fly? Did he train his dragon to breathe fire out? Did he train his dragon to hunt? And so at the end of the story, was he able to do it? So the story has to have a solution, boys and girls. Now let's look at the next one. The next one is called good versus evil. So in some stories, we might have a good guy with a bad guy. And so at the end of the story, you always need to have the good character needs to be able to overcome the bad, evil character. So here we have this story about this princess with this evil queen. And this evil queen was doing mean things to the little girl. And in the end of the story, how is the girl going to overcome the evil queen? Maybe she was able to have a magical wand and she was able to turn the evil queen into a frog. Or maybe she had the help of her friends and they were able to capture the evil queen and lock her up in a dungeon. So this is another way you might end your story. A good versus evil, and the good character overcomes the evil character. A third way you might end the story is to do a happily ever after story. And so you have the characters have their special events, and then at the end of the story, you have a very happy ending. So for example, here we have a cute little alien. He came to Earth, and maybe his problem was that he was trying to find a pet. And so finally at the end of the story, he finds this cute toucan pet, and he was able to take this pet back up to his planet, and then from that point on, they lived happily ever after. That's another way you can end your story. But every story, boys and girls, must have a solution. All right, boys and girls, let's go back and look at our story planner that you did with Mrs. Pollock. So she had this story about the princess and the camel, and they were in the desert. But there was a big problem. The princess and the camel get lost in the desert. So today we're going to have to figure out what happens at the end of the story. How can we solve the problem? Do you remember from her story from yesterday? So we're going to continue writing in our book. So we're going to use our hand to help us because she already had some events in here. So Miss Pollock said they go for a walk to find some dates. They get lost in the desert at night, and then they follow the light from the star to find their house. And on the bottom, boys and girls, did you notice this little small word right there? It says the word solution. Okay, so what was the solution to the problem? Is how did they end it? Is they followed that shooting star, and the shooting star showed them the way home. So let's go back and look at the story that Mrs. Pollock had written. And I will continue with the next 2 pages because you should have done 2 pages yesterday already. So here we go. Let me go back and read it again, and then I'll continue with my story. One spring day, a Saudi princess and her camel went for a walk in the desert to find delicious dates to eat. And Mrs. Pollock even remembered to put her period. Let's go to the next page. The desert was beautiful with spring flowers. They even saw a fox, and her cubs ran by. Ooh, that sounds like a fun adventure that she was having. And what happens next? Well, let's continue with her story. Well, the night, it got dark outside. Okay, so let me plan out my thinking first. It got dark in the desert, and the princess, could not see her way home, and she was lost. Okay, so that's my plan. It got dark in the desert. Okay, so that's one sentence. I'm actually going to put a period there, and then I'm going to start my next sentence is the princess could not see her way home. The princess could not see. Oops, I made a little mistake right there. Let me get my super magic tape to cover that up. The princess could not see her way home. She was lost. All right, now I have put the problem here. She was lost. Oh no. Now, if I drew a matching picture here, what kind of face would I have for her? She will probably have a very scared face. I'll go back and draw my picture later on. Okay, so what happened? So now we have to solve the problem. So we have, in my planning sheet, I had said that there was a shooting star. Okay, so let's say that suddenly she looked up and she saw a shooting star pointing to her way home. Okay, so suddenly, that's a big word. Suddenly, she saw a shooting star. Pointing to the way home. So she followed the light. She followed the light and found her house. So did she solve her problem, boys and girls? Yeah, she did. She made it back home. Was she still lost? No, she wasn't lost anymore. All right, so let me just go back and read it again to see if it makes sense. Okay. All right, so here we go. One spring day, a Saudi princess and her camel went for a walk in the desert to find delicious dates to eat. The desert was beautiful with spring flowers. They even saw a fox and her cubs run by. It got dark in the desert. The princess could not see her way home. She was lost. Suddenly, she saw a shooting star pointing to the way home. She followed the light and found her house. So I would even probably draw the lights with the shooting star maybe pointing this way, and I would draw her house here, and then she would be going home with her camel to her house. All right, and we have an ending for the story. All right, boys and girls, now it's your turn to finish your story today. So make sure you have your story planner that you've been working on and get your writing book out and continue on page 3 and 4. Now, your story might be longer than 3 or 4 pages. So if you want your story to be 5 or 6 pages, that's okay. So if there's a lot of things you want to tell in your story, you can make your story a little bit longer. All right, we can't wait to hear your story when you're all finished. We would love for you to record yourself on Seesaw and send us a video of you reading your story when you're all done. You have the whole week to work on it, and then by Thursday, we would like you to send your story to us on Seesaw. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Bye.